this is Alicia Vaness at Mobile Development Frameworks 1, Term 1510. This is my project for video review. So I'm going to go ahead and just start answering questions. Number 1, did you feel prepared for completing the project? Absolutely. I felt the most prepared that I have for the entire month. This week I had a lot of time to go over a minimal amount of material. It really wasn't that much. There wasn't a whole lot of coding involved. There weren't a whole lot of UI elements involved either. And already having a pretty good understanding of using Storyboard to connect the UI elements to the code to give them some functionality helped in my preparedness, and the fact that connecting to a URL server isn't a completely foreign concept to me. It seems very similar to HTTP client in JavaScript. So I felt really good about the project this week, and I'm pretty happy with the outcome. So number 2, demonstrate your app's functionality. Alright, so here we go. Mass Live, it's Massachusetts news. I'm in Las Vegas, but I grew up in Mass, so that's where I like to get my local what's going on at home. So if I click a link, it will bring me to that page within the website, and then it will stop loading if I can, I clicked it fast enough. If I hit the stop button, my refresh button will reload the page, and my back button is enabled when I can go back, and then when I get back to the original page, I can't go back anymore, and that's disabled. And then my source tab, I've got the source code here in a text view, so I can put the seemingly endless amount of text in it. So there's my project for this week. It seemed really simple to me. That's why I was getting so frustrated when it wasn't getting any data from the URL, and that just goes to show how important spelling is. So let me quit that and go through a short overview of your code. Not too much to go over. So I've got my 2 view controller files. My main view controller is embedded into the tool tab bar controller. So I've got my outlets here. I needed an outlet for the back button to be able to gray it out and then make it blue or enabled when you could go back. My variables for connecting to the URL, so it shows on my web view. This is actually triggering the request to connect to this URL. My back button functions that disable or enable the back button depending on whether or not you can go back. My IB actions for my back button, my stop button, if it is loading, can stop. If not, it's not going to do anything because there's nothing to stop. And then my refresh button will reload the web page. So that's the web view tab. And then the source view tab in its own view controller. I've got my outlets here. And then these are all my variables that I'm going to use in order to connect to the server. They're set to nil initially. This is sending my chosen URL to the URL that is going to, as the URL that's going to be requested, and then this is actually initiating the request to connect to the URL server. So this here is actually adding the data to this NS mutable data variable here. And it's going to hold that until the website is completely loaded, and then all of that data is then going to be output into a string. So once it's finished receiving all the data in little bits, and it has the whole pie, it's going to come down here and be output into my text view. And here, little yellow warning, I disregarded that because I saw it had been addressed with somebody else already. So, yeah, so this is my project 4. I'm really happy with it. I probably could have done a couple things better, like paying attention to my spelling. That was a lot of frustration over something so silly. Got to be a lot more careful in the future. And given that, you know, I had a lot of time to do this project, I probably could have made it a bit prettier. But I didn't want to push my luck and do too much and end up having to start over because I messed something up in the code that I couldn't figure out. So anyhow, that was my project 4 review. Hopefully I did what was expected. It seems to have followed the rubric. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.